This video is brought to you by Against the Flow of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is a book about Jake Fayard, a Marine veteran who is unhappy with the political machine running the state of Mississippi. He decides to fight the corruption from the inside. Jake will face more challenges than he ever has and will stand up for what he thinks is right. His notoriously hot temper will push him to the edge of murder, along with his friend and brother Kobe Barhanovich. Together, they will fight the system and give the power back to the citizens of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is now available on Amazon. A link to the book will be placed in the description below. Welcome to History in the Eyes of a Southerner with your host, Anthony Allen. On this channel, we will take a journey through time and relate history to the contemporary eyes of modern America. I hope you enjoy the ride as I investigate and document the wonderful events that have shaped our present world. Well, I tell you what, before I get started on this, I want to tell y'all know how hard it is to try to get these sound settings right when you have one microphone and it's a boom mic and you do stuff on the cheap like I do. It's not easy. Anyway, I am going to do a reaction video to Checkmate Lincolnites. Now, full disclosure, Atun Shei, Andy, if you happen to see this, brother, I'm a fan. I am 100% a fan. Love your work. And also, if you see this, more Frozen 50s, man, please. Anyway, because that shit is just funny as hell. This is his first Checkmate Lincolnites video that he did. And obviously, if y'all can see the Confederate kepi I'm wearing, y'all can tell which side I kind of fall on. Obviously. But I think he does a fair job for a meddling Yankee like he is from Massachusetts. Anyway, ever get down to New Orleans, or get back to New Orleans, I should say, I'd love to buy this crazy bastard a beer. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go with it.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Checkmate Lincolnites, the program where we destroy the pernicious lies of Republicans, carpetbaggers, Yankees, scallywags, and delineators of the Sable character, using facts and logic. My guest today is the man who runs the lion thieving, Freedmen's Bureau loving YouTube channel Atun Shei Films. Here he is, the dollar store Jamie Lannister himself. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, sir, I have watched your videos about the War of Northern Aggression, and I must say, I did not care for them. Not a whit.
Okay.
Your whole argument about the slavery part of the Confederacy is false.
I love how he uses comments from YouTube on this.
Less than 3% of all Southerners owned slaves. The war itself was over taxes. Look at the Corwin Amendment, for example. The North kept pushing taxes on us Southerners, so we pushed back. You keep pushing your Yankee propaganda like it's real. It was all about the right to be a sovereign nation. LOL. You're just a typical soy boy.
I want to respond to that before he does. First off, there was a hell of a lot more than 3% of the South that had slaves. I will admit that, and you're a fool if you don't. 100%. You know, growing up, South Mississippi, Southeast Louisiana, I can tell you right now, yeah, there was a hell of a lot more than 3%. I do believe the war was over taxes. I don't believe the war started out as being over slavery. And I will qualify my remarks with Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, and Missouri, and after 1863, West Virginia. They were allowed to keep their slaves. Oh, let's not forget the most important part, Washington, D.C., which kept slaves well into 1862. So I'm not saying that it didn't end that way. I am saying that it didn't start that way. Abraham Lincoln himself said, if I could save the Union by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. If I could save the Union by not freeing a single slave, I would do it. But let's see what Andy has to say here.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, it was more like 30% of Southerners who owned slaves. And
that's about right.
Just out of curiosity, sir, did you own slaves back then?
Oh, yes, I most certainly did.
Oh, you're a monster.
LOL, look at this soy boy. Thinks slavery is wrong.
So you mentioned the Corwin Amendment. I'm glad you did. That was basically the federal government's last-ditch attempt to avoid the Civil War. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Corwin Amendment was this proposed amendment to the Constitution that basically would have guaranteed the southern states right to own slaves. I mean, potentially forever. So your implication would be that if the war was really about slavery, then why didn't the southern states just immediately go along with and ratify the Corwin Amendment? But you're forgetting that a big cause of the Civil War, and certainly the events leading up to the Civil War, were not about preserving slavery, but expanding it. I mean, you take the Missouri Compromise, for instance.
And he's right on that.
Lincoln's whole position when he took office wasn't to abolish slavery, it was to contain it. And this went directly against the Confederacy's ambitions. They not only wanted to expand slavery to the territories, they wanted to conquer Cuba and Mexico and make those into slave states as well. But you won't really hear that from people who endorse the lost cause myth.
Let me respond to that. He's exactly right. The reason that the South wanted to expand slavery into the new territories was very simple. They knew that constitutionally, it takes 2/3 of the states to ratify a constitutional amendment. 2/3. If there were more states that were free than that were slaves, and it would have amounted to more than 2/3 of the country without slaves, then yes, absolutely, slavery would have been outlawed. Now, granted, I am not a proponent of slavery. I think slavery was horrible. I am pro-South because I feel that if somebody wants to become their own country, they should be allowed to. I believe that the Union is a gentleman's agreement that if somebody wants to leave, they have the right to. That's the way I feel about it. That's my justification for being pro-South. However, slavery being what it is, I think is a horrible, horrible historical atrocity. And I will not defend it. I will not defend slavery. Absolutely not. I will not joke about it. I will not defend it. I don't even like the wording of the 13th Amendment that makes convict labor legal, as far as slavery goes. I don't even like that. I'll take it there. If you read the 13th Amendment in its entirety. If you read the Emancipation Proclamation, which was went into effect January 1st, 1863, that was bullshit too. If you read it in its entirety, it broke down what areas of the South were allowed to keep slaves, who was allowed to keep them, and it was down to the county and parish that was under federal control that was allowed to keep their slaves. It only abolished slavery in those areas that were in open rebellion against the United States. So that also adds to my argument that the war was not fought over slavery at first.
The USA had slavery for 89 years. The Confederacy only had slavery for 4 years. When the Civil War was over, the Union still had slaves. There is your myth.
The United States was founded on the principles of liberal democracy. The Confederacy was founded to preserve and expand the institution of slavery. And for those 89 years, where do you think most of the slaves lived? I can tell
in
you
the South.
Shit wasn't Ohio or Massachusetts.
Aha! Still waiting for you to address your own state's, Massachusetts' racism. Remember how they used emancipation to chase the blacks out of the state, knocking the black population from 5% to 0.8%?
I want to respond to this real quick. I have been all over the country. I have been to 48 of the 50 states, driving, not flying. I have been to, been all over New England. I actually love New England. I'm not going to lie. New England is beautiful, especially around fall foliage. And I like the Red Sox. That being said, I would argue that the most racist city that I have ever been to was Boston. I will make that argument. Growing up half my life in New Orleans, it's a melting pot. And I've lived in other melting pots too. Miami. Miami's a melting pot. Boston is actually still very segregated, even in a 2023 world. Not saying anything bad about y'all that live in Massachusetts. I got family up there. But, you know, just pointing that out.
That's a bullshit argument, but I'll bite. Did I ever deny that there was racism up north? Everybody knows that Boston is the racist San Francisco. I made 2 whole videos about King Philip's War and talked all about how New England was basically founded on Native American genocide.
Your time is coming. You preening goody two-shoes New Englanders still celebrate your murderous generals like Nathaniel Lyon. Oh, just wait until the sons of Confederate veterans invades New England and treats his grave the way it merits. And we won't be using crowns.
Oh, okay, well, I can guarantee you that not one person in 100 up north knows who the fuck Nathaniel Lyon was. And
I'll agree with that.
Sons of Confederate veterans to invade New England. That would just be really funny.
Let's move on.
That would be funny.
You have dared to criticize the statues of our brave and noble Confederate men, Davis, Beauregard, and of course, General Lee. You have called these statues racist, white supremacist. This is misrepresenting what these statues mean. They are monuments to key moments in history, like the Battle of Liberty Place. Tearing them down is no different from burning a history book. If we had to remove every statue that offended someone, well, then we would have no more statues. And the term white supremacy is not a racist one either.
Bullshit.
White supremacy does not mean black inferiority, just the same way that being proud of your black heritage does not mean you dislike white heritage. What a terrible direction the left wing has started to head these last decades. Complete denial of human rights.
What the
Why don't
hell?
you run that little theory by a black person and get back to me?
Everybody feels their group to be superior. Liberals feel superior to conservatives. Hip-hop feels superior to black metal. Superiority is a widely held belief among all humanity. But all of a sudden when it says your nationality is superior, then it's a problem. Blacks feel superior, that's why they hang out with other blacks. Mexicans feel superior.
And I
that's why
agree
they
with
hang out
that.
other Mexicans.
What he's saying as far as that being straight up
That's a
Hitler.
denial of human rights. Superiority is human nature.
Hey, can I see your gun?
Oh, certainly.
Cool, thanks.
Nice.
Not a shot of. For that, I think I would have too.
If you liked the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell so you get notification of future uploads. Bye!
Okay, my conclusions. First off, I love how he's using YouTube comments. A lot of people on YouTube, sadly, think they know a lot of shit, and they really don't. And they really make the arguments that are so counterproductive to the point that they're trying to make. And this guy shows it. That last comment, yeah, I started, seeing the straight arm salute on that one too. I'm not going to lie. But overall, say he did pretty good. I wish that he would have done more, instead of using the YouTube comments, I wish he would have done more historical fact on the first, and more historical arguments on the first one than on the second one. That would, I think, would have been much better. But anyway, shout out to Atun Shei. I am now, as of this month, one of his Patreons, and I hope he doesn't mind me using this. I'm probably going to react to the rest of his Checkmate Lincolnites, just because this was a series that turned me on to his channel. Y'all should go check him out. Also, he does do a lot more. His Witchfinder General stuff is just wonderfully funny as hell, and I learn a lot. King Philip's War, something I knew nothing about, I've learned from him. Leif Erikson Day, I think was awesome too. I mean, he does so much that I do want to give props to his channel. I think he does an excellent idea, and maybe one of these days I'll get my film editing skills up close to his anyway. Y'all take care. Hope y'all enjoy it. History in the Eyes of a Southerner.